One of my favorite scenes. There was a lot. I think a lot of the abandoned valley scenes were really good. The car scene was probably my favorite. It was the first shot camera mount on a car that I had ever done, and we did it right on Hollywood Boulevard. We parked in the Mosaic parking lot for about 3 hours. We rigged it. It took probably about an hour and a half to rig, and then it took like an extra hour in like 15 minutes. We probably did like 8 takes. We would go, Jay would get in the car. You could see me in the back because there's a jacket that's in the back seat, and it's me hovered up in the back looking at the monitor, making sure everything was okay. But yeah, that was my favorite, probably my favorite one. Yeah, rehearsals were really fun. A lot of the actors they were really down to do rehearsals, so that was a great thing. We probably for each scene, we it was a 4 day shoot, and each day we probably had like a day or two before where we rehearsed, and so all the actors were down. There were a couple days where we couldn't rehearse it, but it was fun. But rehearsals were really fun. That's where like the whole really scene comes to life. And then then we shoot it, and the days go by super fast if you rehearse. So, the really the main goal for rehearsals is for the actors. Whenever, and I've said this before, whenever actors don't want to do rehearsals, I kind of lie to them and I tell them like, oh no, no, like I would love for us to do rehearsals because you're helping me, so that way I kind of know what to do. It's really for the actors, because when that chemistry really builds up in rehearsals, and it's not really something some actors can get away with it on set, but when it comes to just being a human, it's like going on a date. The second and third date are definitely better than the first, and you don't want to meet someone on your first date and you're getting married to them. You know what I mean? So that's yeah, so it's that's the whole concept of rehearsals are where you break the ice for chemistry between all the actors and you find the rhythm. Jay's a great actor. We met at Davy Wayne's, and a dude put a knife on him and Jay kicked his ass. That was the first time ever meeting him, and that happened probably 6 months before I was looking for an actor. And I ran into him at Davy Wayne's, and I was like, "Bro, I remember you acted and everything. I would love to get your number and send you the script." He reads the script, and the next day he got back to me, which a lot of actors didn't do that. They would take like 3, 4, 5, sometimes a week. And he got to me the next day, and I had originally casted him for Kyle. Wow. I immediately casted him for Kyle, which Kyle plays a son of a MILF in the MILF character. So he wasn't even like a main character. And we get to rehearsal. This other guy named Mark was playing Sean, and he did a phenomenal job. And we did rehearsal for about an hour, and then after an hour, I was like, "All right, why don't you guys switch characters? Just to yeah, why don't you guys just switch characters?" And then Sean Jay played Sean, and it was a real different. It wasn't that it was better than Mark, the original actor playing Sean. It was different, and it was what I envisioned for the role. So I had to make a tough phone call to Mark, but Mark, he's a friend of mine. He totally understood. He was dealing with a lot of stuff too, filming wise on other projects, and so yeah. So then I called up Jay. I was like, "Hey, do you want to play the main character?" And he was like, "Hell yeah!" And so yeah, that's how it came to casting Jay. With the car scene, yeah, we used a simple car mount. I say simple; it was pretty intact. Like it took like an hour, hour 15, hour 30 to mount the thing, and then I had to buy an HDMI cord adapter. It had to be like 25, 50 feet long, and then I had to tape that along the car into the back seat. Yeah, that was real. And then Jay would drive through Hollywood Boulevard, turn around in a parking lot, and then drive back. And then we would get out and look at the footage, and then we would do it again. and we did that probably about 8 times. And each one, was like, okay, try to look like this, try to look like that. He gave me like 8 different variations. And yeah, that's basically how that was filmed. Characters. The characters that I really connected with was definitely Sean. Uh, being out here, it's the Hollywood. It's a really fun produce. It's fun to produce. I love producing. It's something. It's crazy. It's wild. It will definitely make my hair grow gray, but it's like really fun. It's like it's like when you're driving and you almost get into a crash, but you don't. It's like you don't think you're gonna make this film. You don't think you're gonna get the location or get the actor, and somehow it happens, or you get a better actor or a better location. So Sean really has that kind of hustle mentality vibe. That's one of the reasons why I want to cast Jay, because Jay, me and him. Well, he's a bartender on the side in a bar back, and I'm a busser at a restaurant, and so we both kind of know about what it means to be treated like crap. And as a producer, you have to take a lot of crap from a lot of people. Yeah, and that's yeah, kind of Sean's character, and that's why yeah, really, and it's just hustling and meeting people and delivering good news to people, bad news to people, having to change, people's perspective on a writing project to, maybe go in this direction. You got to find out ways to talk to people. Sean hasn't really found his way to talk to people with friends. But when it comes to Mark and the executive producers, he knows just how to do it. So, yeah. Sid was great. He was my acting coach for about a year, and I had never gotten to see him act before in person. Um, I didn't know how his demeanor was going to be in rehearsal because he was definitely the most experienced, and he's been in the game for a while. And not only that, but he also has he has a decent name. It's not just actors that have been out here for 20 years. He's been on a lot of big budget sets. He's had trailers and PAs at his becking at any given moment, ready to do anything for him. He comes on to my set and it's like me and four other people, And so I didn't know how he was working with directors, but he was very willing to work with what I wanted this character to be, and I was willing, which gave me the respect to allow him to bring a lot of stuff to the character. So it was phenomenal. Kaylee, it was funny. Kaylee, that was Kaylee wasn't an actress. She played Mark's assistant. She had never acted before, but she has, and she jokes about this. She has like a RBF face, and that's what I needed for the role. And so I was like, hey, do you want to? You have 2, 3 lines and here's your costume. And she was like, yeah, sure, of course. So that was, yeah, her first day ever shooting something, and yeah, she really liked it. So I always like having that for a short that I do. There's always like one actor that is like a regular person who's not an actor, and it's their first thing. So it's always fun. And she did great. She killed it. Oh, Jacob's father, that was another wild story. I had one actor, his name is Rafael Sigler, a Spanish guy, and I had worked with him before many times, and he was locked in to play the role, but then something happened to where I had to change the date, so he couldn't play it, and that happened like a week before shooting, and so I had to find someone in 6 days, and I searched and I feel like for some reason every Spanish guy that I knew was out of town that day, and we were shooting on a Saturday night, and they were all out of town. I called him, and finally, a friend of a friend that he had worked with on a play was available. I'd never seen him act before. Never did. We didn't do rehearsals. I found him on Friday. I was searching through everybody from Monday to Friday. Found him on Friday. Got his phone number. Called him up. Said, "How you doing, brother? My name's Nelson. We're shooting this thing. I gave him the ins and outs, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And yeah, that was a wild story. That always happens at least once or twice on my project.
Wow, you made it work out.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
The hardest scene, probably the abandoned valley scenes. I remember for some reason there was a massive, or they were doing construction on the highway to get to the location. It was near Santa Clarita. And so they blocked off a ton of roads to get there. So you had to take like a detour. So it took like 20 minutes. So like everybody was 20 minutes late. I was 20 minutes late as well. So I wasn't really mad about that. But then GT, my sound guy, was like an hour late. And we had from 12 to 6 p.m. And so he gets there, and the first thing we shoot in the film, the first thing, was the money, the briefcase, when Kenny is there at the abandoned valley with the redneck. That was the first thing we shot. And it was so tedious because each shot, you could see those insert shots, they're like 2 seconds. And so having to film that, I had never done that before, and it was like really hard and really tough at first. But once I found the rhythm, yeah, it was easy. But that was probably the toughest thing to put together those scenes. The biggest inspiration for this whole thing that I wrote was "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia." I remember hearing that story. The actors, the main actors, you have three out of work actors, and in real life, I forgot that Charlie Day and the two other guys, I forgot their names, but nobody was hiring them, and so they decided to make a $200 proof of concept called "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia." Fox gets a hold of it and decides to make it as a show with them being the main characters. And I was like, wow, that's a cool concept. So I took, writer, director, actor, and yeah, yeah. Scene wise, I wish I would have got a little more inserts when Kenny throws the cards down. Yeah, probably more insert shots on certain things. Um, I like what I did with the door at the end and turning off the music on the speaker. That was really cool. But yeah, probably a little more insert shots on certain scenes. Yeah. Band of Valley scenes were tough. They were tough. They weren't. It was tedious. A lot of inserts, especially at the beginning. Um, and then the paintball scenes. Yeah, it was cool, but it was a lot going on. But the space, it was like 8 acres, and so we got to film like 3 scenes, 4 scenes in the span of like a day, and so yeah, it was just a lot of moving parts. But what helped with that was storyboards. So yeah. Yeah, storyboarding. This was my first project, really, really storyboarding. The last two projects, I'm a horrible artist. I was drawing like triangles for like heads. It was really bad. But like I looked at it and I knew, oh, okay, this is what I want. This one, I ran into a guy at a coffee shop called Priscilla's. His name is Arby, and I noticed that he was drawing this portrait. And I walked right up to him. I said, "Hey man, wow, you're really good." And he was like, "Oh, thank you." And I was like, do you do storyboards?" He was like, "Man, I've always wanted to do those." And I said, "Well, today's your lucky day because I need you right now for the next 2 weeks." And so every day we met at Priscilla's from 5 p.m. to 8, and we drew all the storyboards, all the shots. And he did phenomenal. Like all, it was clear as day what how these shots were gonna be, and it saved so much time. I think the only scene that I didn't storyboard was the Black Dome scene with Sean and Mark. Those were the only scenes I didn't do. Every other scene I did and saved a ton of time. I'm gonna do that for the rest of my life. Shooting 4 to 5 hours a day, that's one thing that, well, a lot of people like being on my sets because I only work 4 to 5 hours a day. I'm not working like 10, 12 hours. When I found out that Chris Nolan mainly only shoots 4 to 5 hours a day, obviously it depends on the project. I'm sure The Dark Knight, he was not shooting 4 to 5 hours a day, but a lot of his films that he does, with Tenet, Oppenheimer, his there's a joke that he has the biggest budget student film set because when you show up to set, it's Chris, his wife, the camera operator, the sound guy, and the cinematographer. That says 5 people, plus the actors. And even his monitor is like this. Like people look at his monitor and it doesn't have color. on it. It's just an old monitor. And so once I found out that he was doing 4 or 5 hours, at the time I could only do 4 or 5 hours because of locations, and I couldn't afford anything over 4 or 5 hours. I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing something right. And then sure enough, a lot of actors, they're like, oh, I love that you only do 4 to 5 hours, so that helps. The last scene we shot, oh, that was a bitch. Uh, that was a fun shoot, but afterwards I had to go to work. I had to go bus tables, so I was not looking forward to that, and I was so tired. And I made the mistake of not getting food for everybody, and so everybody was kind of like hungry. And plus, and then it started raining at the end. Luckily, it was inside, but it was fun. It was a great time filming. It was the scene where they're it's the Save the Cat scene where they're arguing. That's like it was that scene, and then the very last scene was the last scene that we shot. That was really fun to shoot. It was like so we shoot the Save the Cat scene where they're arguing about what to put on the script in the story. You know, oh, we should have his dad in page 25. No, we should honestly have him page 40. That I was like super energetic. You know, I was like working with the actors and everything, and it was going great. And then the last scene happens, and it's nighttime now, and I don't know, like the tiredness just hit me like a brick wall, and everybody could tell. Or I don't know about everybody. There were a couple people that asked me like, "Hey, are you okay?" Because I was so dead and I was so tired, and I was like, "Man, maybe I need to start acting not so depressed right now." But the scene was very depressing, and I could kind of tell a lot of other people were catching my vibe of being depressed. Like there was a lot of people weren't talking as much. They were on their phone, which I don't mind, but they were just like in a depressing state. And I was like, man, maybe I should keep this. And it was crazy, like the aura that occurred. You know, one person gets depressed, another person, another. It was also late. Nobody had eaten, but yeah, and it worked, and it was a great scene. The editing took, I want to say, a week and a half, 2 weeks over the span of like a month. Um, it was really fun to edit. It was the first time editing fast paced insert shots, kind of Whiplash, Damien Chazelle like. So that was fun. It was just, a lot of it was tedious, but yeah, with the editing, it was getting their reactions. Mark and Sean, Jay and Sid, them acting was really cool to edit. The Abandoned Valley scenes were really fun to edit. I mean, the whole thing was awesome. But yeah, about 2 weeks over the span of like a month, so it wasn't horrible. A lot of inspiration that I got, other than It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, was probably Whiplash. Just with the inserts and everything, with the quick cuts, opening the briefcase, the money, grabbing the briefcase, the sound effects. I didn't realize how big the sound effects played into it. You have to like turn up the sound effects to make it more noticeable, I guess. Door opening, the Save the Cat thing with the book, um, the script where it's turning the script, inserts of that, and yeah, it was just it was really, really, really fun, and so Whiplash was definitely another big inspiration. Yeah, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Whiplash. Yeah. Favorite part about I'll say the favorite part probably of this whole scenario where whole film was really working with everybody. It was yeah, everybody was down to do it. They were super helpful. And yeah, I can't wait for the next one. So give it a watch. It's a good watch.